Thank you. Okay. Do you need to project the slides?
I will, as you can go, I'm ready to start.
I'm ready. Well, yeah, I'll take it.
Okay.
Everything show. Okay. So good evening, everyone. My name is Claudia Menendez. I've been here in Fort Collins for about 13 years. I'm originally from El Salvador, and I grew up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. There's a long story there that we can talk about another time. And then through some international development work that I did after university, through a nonprofit in New Brunswick that sent me to Honduras, I ended up in Fort Collins through a nonprofit called Trees, Water, and People. And in fact, how I know Star and Phil is that they were you board members?
No, never mind.
Okay.
Always.
Always supporters and party goers. Okay. And so if you know, does anybody recognize the mural? Does it look familiar? You may have walked right past it. It's actually in the alleyway behind Close Pony. And then that building that's right there, which I think is now Common Chicken. And so it's a beautiful mural that is dedicated to the movement of people and animals through, you know, what we call migration. So when you're then kind of wall here. And so I have the officer, I'm only 1 year old, so I'm just barely walking and down. But it's been an incredible learning experience. I have never worked in government before. I've worked with government entities, but not necessarily for, you know, within the institution. And so the learning process, as you can imagine, has been very interesting. I'm definitely a lifelong learner, so I take on those challenges wholeheartedly. Even though there are moments where I question why. How do we do things? Why are we created complex systems that we can't seem to untangle? And so, curiosity. Just looking, you know, to me, it's a privilege to be able to work for the community and find solutions for our community within our community. And so I think that that's the basis of the work that we're doing. So I started as an office of one, and in 1 year, built out the office. Now we have 2 folks. And Rachel Johnson came over from CSU, and Jenny did as well, actually. So I'm so sorry CSU for keeping people. And so, you know, Rachel is sort of a generalist in equity, diversity, and inclusion, primarily working with Native American community, which I'll talk a little bit about later on. And Jenny Cole is working along with creating positive and inclusive work with climate and employee relations, but also with all the community members who have concerns about what's going on in the city. She's also that conduit and has many conversations with individuals. Any questions?
Okay, so you're gonna need to move.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. So quickly I forgot. But I really tried to. Okay. So I think that, you know, my journey has allowed me to learn more about what municipal government is. And I think we're so fortunate to live in Fort Collins, where you may not question what government does very often because it works remarkably well. Coming from El Salvador, you know, there's a general distrust, and we have very little involvement with, you know, government doesn't speak about money, and nor do we give it. And so this is a very different climate, and our government wants to do things for the community. And so, you know, I learned over the last year that municipal government really impacts those type of government to the people. And so I believe that, you know, this is probably my biggest moment, is I realized that the work that we're doing globally has real impact in every individual that calls for home. And so I just wanted to highlight that because this really sets the foundation for how not far off of our work. And I like to remind my colleagues, right? Because sometimes we think about work, it's something we do, but it becomes mechanical, and we miss out, we forget that there's a human-centered focus that should always be present, and that really is our responsibility, is to make sure we're doing things for the community and with the So some of the work that we've done at the city, so diversity, equity, and inclusion work has been going on for a long time. And so it's not just with my office or with my hiring that this started. So I think really honoring the work that has taken place in the past. But it wasn't until 2020 that there was a very much official objective adopted into the strategic plan, which is a lengthy document. But if you ever read any one thing from the city, the strategic plan is updated every 2 years. It really gives you some good focus on what are the primary, what's the focus and the objectives of the work that's happening in sort of 2-year cycles. And so they did adopt this strategic objective in 2020, advanced equity for all, leading with free, that a person's identity or identity is not a predictor. As soon as I got into office, I heard some feedback from different community groups. And some of the feedback was that they didn't necessarily see themselves being this particular objective. And understanding that we are not members, understanding that we are not California, right? And so I think it's important that if we're going to move the needle on any type of equity and inclusion and diversity, we want to make sure that everyone is part of this journey. And so we made sure that all of the protected classes essentially were listed, so that anybody who reads this statement sees themselves in it, either because of their gender, their race, their religion, their age, their physical and mental ability. We see ourselves in that statement. Once you see yourself in that statement, then I think you can get the time to work and understand that we all have needs of different types throughout our lives. And that's where we can start to kind of understand individual stories and how some of these things start to intersect. And so, I take, my mother, she is Latina, she does speak English, but she has an accent. And, she has arthritis, and so the way that she moves through the world is different than the way that she did 30 years ago. And so depending on where she's walking into, somebody might hear her accent and maybe not understand what she's saying. But she's actually much like her sister. So she's also perceived differently. And we've got like, it's actually your mother. Right? So, there's these things start to sort of layer on top of who we are as individuals, and we navigate the world differently depending on the time. Just some general topics of the things that we've been working on. Is there an actual pointer that one? Oh dear.
I don't think so.
No leaders.
I'd have to ask somebody about that.
So these are some of the general topics that we are, or the big concepts that we're working on. So Native American community relations, equity indicators report, which we'll look at just briefly here in a little bit. I'll go the other way. Education and training is always part of everything that we do. BFO stands for the budgeting for outcomes process. And so the budgeting process happens every 2 years in the city. And it's a remarkable project that takes place. Across all the departments, everyone's focused on figuring out where we're going to allocate funds. And I made some very interesting discoveries during that process. We did a whole month of July. And, I think we're all doing remarkable work, but it's so much easier to talk about snow removal and a tree canopy and cats and dogs than it is to talk about people. And so I have made, I feel like my part of my job is to say topics sometimes, even though it feels like, the children. It's like these are of these projects of these resources. And so I know that change happens slowly. It's different than I could appreciate. And I do hold my colleagues and I know that we have many conversations yet to have. But that has been for me the most interesting, challenging, frustrating, rewarding process that I've been through in my last 12 months in the city. Is the budget for outcomes. And I will applaud that September 28th, that next Tuesday or next Wednesday.
Wednesday.
There is, if you are interested in the budget, there is a forum for people to come and ask questions. Before I leave, I can give you that information.
Okay.
ADA work, so American Act. Constantly looking at those things, what are we doing in planning, how staff and community partnerships. I really think that the focus of my last year has been building relationships. None of this work of any type will take place unless there is trust and a friendship that we can build upon. So a lot of times we spend meeting with our groups. This is, I think, a good example of people are curious to know. And what that really and then the Human Relations Commission and the Disability Advisory. And some of you may know the city has many commissions, 26 of them in fact. So all different topics that are groups that focus on particular topics. If any of you have ever looked into that and are curious about ways to be more involved, the boards and commissions are the annual recruitment process, application process. For the Human Relations Commission person, I believe I've been on a call with you over there, right? Through the HR committee, through committee development. But they're doing remarkable work. They really recognize people that are going above and beyond, just above and beyond the community. So a lot of the community is that something that you're interested in as well. So over the community, we there's a lot of data available out there. Sometimes probably too much because we don't know what to do with it in the end. But we do lean on census data a lot, and that will come up again in the math that I'll share with you. So I have to say that this actually remains pretty much the same as we'll call it over the last 20 years. Numbers don't fluctuate all the population, but the percentages of those who identify as Hispanic pretty consistent. For the 10 years that I was in the Latino students comprised of about 18 to 20%. That's true, but pretty. So good to know sort of where we are in the community. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. So I want to point out, oh, you're just posting, right? So I just wanted to point out some of the groups that we have been convening and talking to on a regular basis, some more than others. Because I think sometimes we can look at that data, list of different ethnicities, different ages, and things like that. But I think it's important that sometimes it's helpful for me to kind of see who else. And so each of these conversations, as we figure out who our community is, each of these conversations leads me down to deeper understanding about what that needs people have. and how we want, and everybody needs to be seeing value first. And so some of these conversations is more about like, here we are. Do you see it? Do you recognize us? Yes, you know. And then, you know, we kind of move on from there. The budgeting process is always an intriguing piece of the process because people want to see them. Are we, are the funding coming, are the projects that are and will actually of all of them? And the answer is yes and no, right? Because the answer is always need more. And so, but without the conversations that we're having consistently with different groups, we're not going to get to more of that answer. And so this is the kind of work that is not tangible, right? I can't afford them the conversations that we have with people. In the end, it's what takes up most of my time. And so I think that it's interesting because we all want from that data, how many people that we have. Like sometimes we can't measure the things that happen most of the quality part of the job. But it helps me, and I think it helps to tell part of that story. That these are some of the people in our neighborhoods that we're talking to, right? We have to be talking to. So just a bit of a focus on Native American community. So Fort Collins has probably about 2 or 3% of Native American, urban Native American community. And so these are folks that come from a variety, many tribes, states. And as many of you may know, Fort Collins is always with trade, where it's transition and and so we don't necessarily have one tribe or, you know, or one tribe that lives in the area, but many. And so it continues to be that kind of space where people come see as you is that's a very space for the community, especially for the study. And often we stay because CSU has helped create a sense of belonging for Native Americans. And so this is a particular group of folks here in town that, because of general, all the history, all the harm that has been caused over the years, have a true disruptive government. And so, I don't know if you remember this conversation about Hughes Stadium not long ago. That was a very intriguing, I entered into my position right as all of that was blowing up. And, you know, I do believe that everything happened. It was by far the area that I felt least prepared to work in. And yet it's become the most significant work that we've done in the last month. So it's just interesting how things line up. But that Hughes land situation was really for helping the community and to ask, you know, what do you need? What is it the city isn't doing that needs to happen? Who are the what are the supporting? So that's the work that's happening here. We have some amazing colleagues that had already this conversation, but more with individuals and not so much with the community. So we're looking at October 4th. You know that we have a cadence of every Tuesday there's a work session or a council meeting. And so October 4th is a regular council meeting in the evening, and we will have our first division of the state resolution. And so this is a pretty significant occurrence. A resolution normally happens once in a lifetime. It sets the pace or it opens the door for the work to come. And so it's a quasi-legal document. It's I guess it has more weight than a document or a recognition and resolution as something passed. And so that has been over a year in the making. Community coming together to write that resolution that the mayor will lead with Indigenous voices along the platform. So if you're around October 4th, or you tune in on Channel 14, you will see this taking place. Land acknowledgement. This is, I think, a phrase that has been very popular we are trying to be, we're trying to acknowledge the fact that there has been harm caused in that we recognize that we land, we are unceded, on unceded. But land acknowledgement is not just, a video that's created, so what does it look like in actual practice? And this is where communities are advising the city in land acknowledgement along with land back. And so, Soapstone Prairie is a good example of that. It's already in this place. And so is there a possibility that it is dedicated to community ceremony for plant for ritual use? And then there are other ideas that they are also the role of the city is to help them organize. You give them the space to be able to come together, to have meetings, and to figure out. So for a community cultural center, the city would not be funding a location, but by us providing a space for the together to organize, they are forming a nonprofit who will be in charge of finding fundraising and then creating the programming around it. So it really is this joint effort to help them feel a strong sense of belonging. How am I doing for time?
You're doing great. You're no,
One comment, I was watching it, we're listening to a PBS program that's coming back, a little bit on diversity. It was from Arizona, but they were finding in one of the coolest places in Arizona that the acorn nuts, or a specific kind of acorn nuts, that the Apache used almost instead of salt or pepper, the acorn was ground and it became the topping for a lot of meals. That they would contact the forester and said, is this something you can do? There's getting less and less of the sweet eggs for those kind of trees that we use in our diet. And so the forester cleaning out some of the areas to help their selected members program
Well, and I think that Native Americans are the true stewards of our natural resources. So it makes sense that the relationship. I will just say one last thing here. Are you familiar with the bison bird that lives up at Soapstone? Maybe you've seen photos. And so that's actually a joint project with CSU, with the School of the Veterinary School. And then those are purebred Yellowstone bison. And the generation of, if you're familiar with it, have you seen one? Yeah. They really are. Mm-hmm. And so that project was meant to help the Yellowstone DNA produce, and the bison has been prolific. And so they had this issue where they were like, we need to move them off the land, so don't have to pay so many. And so the plan then is that now actually they've already been transferred, but they are through the name right now. But it's the intertribal bison buffalo cast. And so they are in a partnership with CSU, and a couple of tribes in Oklahoma got some 15, 16, and then another one in Iowa. And so this is for a lot of the generation 45, so a lot of the indigenous youth of 45 years old have never actually lived on a reservation with buffalo, with bison. And so now that they're being reintroduced to the reservation, all of the stories, right, about how significant, culturally significant this animal is for Native Americans. So it really is sort of a beautiful. And so this is a snapshot from the equity indicators dashboard. And so the equity indicators is a report. It is a report that was done by the Institute of State Government, the City University of New York. It was published in 2021. It was done specifically for the city of Fort Collins. And it really is to spotlight, I call it our every conference, because that's what it is, right? It is a very, it's looking at all of the racial disparities that exist in our town. And so, what a report like this does is confirm what we already knew. And so, it gives us a place to start. It definitely is not, here's the end, really where we start the conversation. And we start to do more debate on whether the programs, policies, services that we are providing as will be systemic barriers to certain people in our community. So the first three, so the City University of New York, CUNY, they recommended 10 different domains. These topics are called domains. They recommended 10 of them that are in our purview to continue the work with. And so the first three that we covered is housing, economic health, opportunity, and criminal justice policy. And so when you go on the website, you can click on each of these boxes and then you see anywhere from like 4 to 5 indicators that really kind of dig in to those different topics. And they have a couple of graphs. It's not a very sophisticated dashboard yet, but this is where we started. And this is, with the folks that I've had and kind of connections to the community who are passionate about this work. So in the next month, we will see other layers of work. But what this has allowed for me to do is to really start a close relationship with Chief Sabota, for instance, and Deputy Chief Yeager, and many other of our police officers, to really talk about what does this mean to you as an institution, and what does it mean to community members, what is the community, and what is the perception of this particular department, particular data. And, we get hung up on this. But these are not the stories, right? These are not, because we're often missing the part of the community. And so that's what we did as we talk with teams that are working on economic health and housing. When I talk about affordable housing, that is a hot, right? But let's talk about the impact of big housing. Right? And so there's so much to each of these topics. And in the last 6 to 9 months, we've just been trying to really find out what it is that's happening sort of behind the scenes and what programs are actually, how do we allocate money to make these numbers change over the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And so that's again where this budget and important. During the meetings, I kept bringing up the indicators. It's like, is this going to change the data, right? How are we going to measure it? So very complex work, multifaceted work, and it's sluggish. And so that's, I really emphasize the word sluggish because it moves like molasses. It's urgent, but it moves like molasses. And so that, I think probably sums up the word in some ways. I think what I was discovering is that everything is urgent. And so I'm learning to live in that space. Oh, now you are. Some of this work definitely, I would say that the housing team is a really good example. They know the reasons why housing has not been available or affordable. And so they have been working with, different community groups to sort of figure out, how do we make housing? So the DEI work with this has been happening for a long time, but this report and hold it all together in a way that maybe is just more cohesive. But I actually don't have it here necessarily, but we do have a slide with 5 or 6 different sources that they pull all of the data from. So this is the compilation of data that is through our community survey, through census data, through another sort of social analysis gap that was done years ago. So definitely data that already exists. And I have to say that this was actually, I think, the reason why I got hired, because I used this as a platform for my interview process. Because this was published in March of 2021. And so when I saw this job, right, so that's the problem in May, June of 2021. So this was really hot off the press. And I mean, if you invest in a report of this type, which is not cheap, you need to do something. And I think that's what the end of data is about. You haven't engaged in reports, and we don't do anything. So the challenge is on. This is not easy work, but the relationships that we are building and the analysis that we're doing with each of these groups is significant. The challenge, the second part of the challenge is how do we tell the story so community members like yourselves can understand how, where we started. So you have almost like a before and after, right? This data is the before. The work we're doing is like the middle, and then what is the after? What is the outcome? And so that's, again, it's time, but we're believing that we're working. So in the next couple of months, these 3 domains will cause me to decide with numeric data that will help tell greater human centered class. Oh, I will note that we have done a couple of different forums to help people understand what the indicators are. And we will continue to do some of that along the way. Human Relations Commission is also very much used to this work, interested. And so bias is one of the trainings that they offer in July. There's another one coming up October 19th as well. So another information I can send you. Those are all coming in each quite well. Maybe that's next. And so as we think about who our community is, right? So think back to that slide in orange circles. And also think back to the census, right? Census facts. And so we're able to create these maps using all the different layers of census information that's available. And what I want to point out with these maps is this is through equity and opportunity assessment. And so it was something that we need to understand where the people might feel like they're being closed out. And so what that is, so you can probably find the neighborhood here with know where it's at. So we'll start over with free and reduced lunch rates. So free and reduced lunch rates are for school children whose families are low income, and then they're able to get either free or reduced lunch. So in this particular map, maybe means that there are a lot of on free and reduced lunch, which means that the parents probably run low. Does anybody recognize that where that circle is? I mean, make it with the pointed. Yeah, so at Terry Lake in college, there's an entrance there to River Valley. And then around the corner is the Hickory one. And in those 2 local parks, there are probably over 1,000 houses, maybe 1,000 rural homes. And so it probably is, potentially a lot more people than we would. I'm Latinx, I'm also Salvador, and so I can speak for my community. And these are our pockets of affordable housing. And we'll talk a little bit more about why in a second. But so just pay attention, here's the little circle. So we've got really countries that are high over here. Usually that's the diversity you have. And then over here, the expected adulthood earnings is low. And so you start to make up the story, right? You start to make some connections. And I don't want to leave you with bad stories because this study is in fact made to talk about where we have the opportunity to further invest and really understand who our population is that might be the most need and how as a government we can impact to make a difference. So it doesn't tell where you don't see that, right? It's not just to point out that this is where we're looking and this we happen to be living. So I just want there's both sides to that story. But I think it is important to know why that story is so. And so, you know, these are some of the reasons that are happening within the Latino family. And in different times in our lives, private mother, single mom, 2 kids, a lot of so legal status, you know that is definitely a situation a lot of people are living through. I was at one point documented as well. Now I have Canadian and American citizenship. Totally awesome. And both passports, depending on where I'm going, you know, I feel like a spy. But I think what we see often here in Fort Collins is that we have families that have people matter. The parents are undocumented, maybe the children have been born parents. You've got kids that might be, you know, the parents, the household might be running on children's social security numbers, right? Equal benefits, finance connections, for instance, right? Utilities. There's different areas that we are asking social security numbers. Right? Those are the things I dig into in work. You know, children are the citizens, limited access to higher education and training, jobs, navigating services, programs, opportunities, very tricky when the children are the citizens and the parents are not. And then of course, we have a family in the school and adopted. And I work in community with multiple programs for years, so I know the circumstances. These families are navigating very well. Language development. So parents are often monolingual or beginner, or that should say English speakers, not Spanish speakers. Although, if you don't have Guatemala, there's a lot of indigenous groups, and in the last years, many Guatemalan families joined Fort Collins, and they actually speak Spanish as a second language. And so they still speak their indigenous language. So this can't be actually true, but they are Spanish. Children are bilingual or moving towards English dominance more than their parents. And so that dynamic is very interesting in that school. The children become the interpreters and translators. And so these adult roles kids play, you know, sometimes we don't know. How the dynamics of the family often get because of that. And then again, the children are the trend. Cultural spanning. Cultural spanning is really weird. We don't see family great. These are traditions. We keep our culture. You know, your kids leave and go to school, and they're like, we love them, right? We love them. What? Culture sleepovers are a total profile. Like, yeah, so you don't have to. And you know, for U.S. kids, we might have when we were very young. So there's some interesting things that kind of take place there. And the cultural awareness, adaptation, and simulation. And sometimes we have some mental health issues that involve all of these things that are happening. With parents, you know, when you make choice, and sometimes it's not your own choice, it's what you right? The political unrest, the violence that is so bad that you choose to leave your country take the risk, crossing the border to be undocumented. And so the mental health issues really are a lot of community. And sometimes it goes to the and so it becomes a sort of trans or a intergenerational, issues that are really tossed off. So that there's lots of things there. But I think it's important that we have sort of a full picture, a holistic picture of, what I would of what victims are, of why this, right? So when you're undocumented, you don't have necessarily a lot of job training. Living in a mobile home park is the best that you're going to do for your lifetime. And then hopefully your children, maybe if they were born here, you can take advantage of all the things provided. Maybe they'll move you out. But some of the rural areas that I'm from, living in the mobile home parks is period. So there's also perspective. And then I think I just wanted to kind of show that other list in a slightly different way with maybe a couple of other things. When we talk about home ownership, right? So one of the domains is housing and the cost burden of either renting or the cost burden of becoming a homeowner. Home ownership is the way that a lot of us build equity, right? We actually build a little bit of wealth. You can save up just enough for that down payment for that first home. I mean, you're golden, right? You have something to take to the and so the amount of value that's placed on home ownership is so great in our community. And when the equity indicator report acts and looks at the aggregated data, who has attached to this or not, it's not looking at that whole story that I just showed you, right? And so you're missing the human side of the story. So these are some of the other things that really, take place when you don't have a low paying or a high paying job and your car payments, right? The food quality you're buying, your job satisfaction, all of these things impede or allow to actually invest in things. And so I think it's important that we consider when we see data that people of color have left. There's a lot going on. And then I think one slide now that is that not all people of color are right? If there's anything that you walk away with today, is that there's so much diversity. It's socioeconomic status, not only white Caucasian, but also. And I think that sometimes what the media shows us, right, is you're either, like you're Jennifer Lopez, or you're living in that community. And so I think that it's like the myth that we're living among the people of color, among age, right, amongst all of us, is really, really important for us to keep in mind. And I think
That's it.
those are all the slides that I have for you today. So I'm happy to answer questions here or anything else that you want to share. Questions about.
So we have some questions, and then we also have, there's the paper that's in the middle of your table. There isn't enough for everybody, but also has our little reflection questions for tonight, church. But anybody have any questions for Ms. Menendez? No? Oh, there, over there.
Study group